The Beer Guys Radio Show on the Beer Guys Radio Network. BeerGuysRadio.com. Open up a tab, grab a seat, and pour a pint. It's time for the Beer Guys Radio Show.
You want free beer? Go to the brewery.
Dedicated to the art, science, and enjoyment of craft beer.
Yo, what's wrong with the beer we got?
Now, here are your hosts, Tim Dennis and Aaron Williams.
And welcome to the Beer Guys Radio Show. We are radio for the local craft beer movement, broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia, in AM 920 The Answer Studios. And I'm Aaron Williams.
And I'm Tim Dennis. And this week we are talking distribution. We've talked a lot about distribution on the show, Aaron, but we've never had a distributor in the studio with us. We're going to change that tonight. And we have Phillip Barnes, Eric Levin, and Michael Lowenberg from Modern Hops. Guys, thanks so much for joining us today.
Oh, thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Definitely. A bevy of beers out here. We're going to talk about distribution, going to talk about what they do and how they bring beer to the area. And it should be a good conversation. It should be a lot of fun.
Absolutely.
But in the meantime, though, before we kind of get into what we did this week, Tim, I need you to do me a favor. I need you to post 7 black and white pics of your week on Facebook.
Not going to do it.
You're not going to do it?
Not going to do it.
Okay.
You won't suck me into those things.
All right. No. One
Just
day a week.
say no.
Okay.
You could do 7 black and white beers.
That's true. That's what mine would be. Mine would be all different beers.
It says no because the theme, I believe, is no people and no explanation. So all my picks are beer and food. Nice. If it's not people. So
I think that would work. So you're hobnobbing with celebrities this week.
I do. I occasionally hang. That's how I roll occasionally. So got some friends. A little celeb status there, but yeah, had a good time, man. I went down to the Decatur Beer Fest, and you checked out a lot of beers there. Good stuff. Lowenberg is mesmerized by the camera. He's waving at it, trying to see himself here. It's quite all right. It's distracting. It's distracting. So
it's what
we're gonna have to put him in timeout already. Yes. We haven't even started the show, and he's ready for timeout.
You know, it's the same thing that my 6-year-old does when she goes into Target. And
that's
she sees the picture on top of it.
You do that too, don't you, Michael? When you go in Target, wave at the cameras.
I'm a professional. I was looking for my mark.
Okay, for the mark. Gotcha. So Decatur Beer Fest, some good stuff there. Tried great beer from Left Nut Brewing. They had a barley wine, English barley wine, that was barrel aged, and they added rum and cinnamon to it, which was really nice. Tried the Dust Bunny from Monday night that they just released. They had the Three Taverns Brick Store Pub collaboration that they did for their 20th anniversary. Total BS was there, which I really enjoyed.
Yep.
Just a lot of good people hanging around there. So, and then after that, I had to go to Brick Store Pub. I was introduced to whiskey shots with a pickleback.
Okay,
are you
I've
familiar
heard of
with that?
Yes.
I hadn't heard of it. So, someone introduced me to that. I asked, what in the world is it? And for those like me who didn't know, it's about what it sounds like. It's a shot of whiskey, and then you take a shot of pickle juice.
I've heard that's a thing in New York City.
Okay.
Like
someone else said, I think Baltimore, maybe that it was. So the northern, it wasn't awful. Let's go with that.
What kind of whiskey was it, though?
We actually, the ASW Monday night collaboration whiskey. So we drank local with our picklebacks.
That sounds like a plan.
Was it dill or sweet pickle juice?
It was dill.
Okay.
Yes, nice dill pickle juice shot. So. And I like pickle juice and that, so it worked for me.
There you go.
Yeah. And Aaron, you had quite a week.
Oh man, I tell you what. My cousin got married, and of course, most of my family is up in Maine, so I took that opportunity to go up there and do some beer touring, as it were. Southern Prohibition a while ago gave us this huge shipper. They sent us this huge box that was a big shipping container, so I put it to good use. And was able to go on the VIP tour of Allagash Brewing. And it was such a great tour that I was sworn to secrecy on some of the beers that we were able to try. So it was pretty awesome. The facility is fantastic. And, of course, you got to see the famous Cool Ship, the first one in America. Also, we were able to check out Bissell Brothers, which, again, big up-and-coming IPA manufacturer basically in Portland. Lone Pine, small one, and Foundation Brewing also. And before we went home, we also checked out the Great Lost Bear, which is Portland's oldest craft beer bar, and it holds a special place in my heart. It's where I visited in 1995 right after graduating college with my uncle, and it's also the very first place that Allagash White was sold. So
interesting.
Yeah, so it was
historical beer bar there.
It was a really cool beer bar, great service, and it's got a booming craft beer scene. So folks who have never tried it, take that trip, take that Boston/Portland trip, and you will come home with a very full cooler. That'll be key.
Very cool.
Definitely. All right, let's check out Truck and Tap's Beers of the Week.
Crack open a cold one. It's the Truck and Tap Beer of the Week. Craft beer and food trucks in downtown Woodstock. Truckandtap.com.
Like I said, we've had a ton of beers that are out there.
Our Truck and Tap beers of the week this week are all of them. So
Exactly.
that's kind of it. So we did pre-gaming with Creature Comforts Table Beer, which is a really nice, easy drinking beer. Meant to pair with food, but we did it sans food here, and it still drank pretty good. So good stuff there. We are currently drinking D9's Cryonic. Is that right, guys? Cryonic?
That's it.
Cryonic from that the Modern Hops guys brought to us. And we have some Allagash that Aaron brought back from Maine. We have Rising Tide Nikita, Booth Bay Brewing, Thirsty Botanist, and one that just released a little earlier this week. We have Jekyll's Southern Juicy Juice.
Yeah, and I got to talk to Josh Rachel during that release, so we'll have a little bit more of that later on in the show.
Good deal.
But in the meantime, let's check out this week's headlines.
What's in the news? The beer guys have the scoop.
Extra, extra, read all about it.
Time for headlines.
And we've got some openings and some closings to talk about this week. November 12th will be Gordon Biersch's last day in Midtown. Now, I didn't know this, but Gordon Biersch has been in that Midtown location for 18 years.
1999.
That's amazing.
I think I actually rung the death bell for them because I was having a conversation online about the age of breweries in Georgia, and I said Red Brick was the oldest operating in there, and someone's like, oh, maybe. I'm not sure, though. I'm like, trust me on this. So they said, I don't know about Max Lagers and Gordon Biersch. So I put those dates out, and like 2 hours after that is when the news broke that they were closing.
Yeah, so again, too bad for the employees there. Some of the Midtown employees are going to go to the Buckhead location. That's going to stay open. And right now the chain has 29 brewery and restaurant locations nationwide. The brewery itself, it's got an on-site brewery and seating for 450 people, so maybe it's an opportunity for someone to open a different brew pub in that area.
Yeah, could be, and that's, some people had mentioned online, real estate could be an issue there.
Sure.
Where it is and the cost, but, kind of a sign, I think, when you have a corporate brew pub closing with the rate that all these others are opening up.
Yeah, and
worth noting.
Back 10, 20 years ago, that was all there was with those big brew pubs.
Yeah.
I remember going to Gordon Biersch in Honolulu when my parents lived there. But that was like the only real place you could get a lot of craft beer. But the Indies have basically taken over that spot.
Gordon Biersch still very much felt like the late 90s brew pub wave there.
It did. So also some good news, actually. We had this, it was going to be bad news, but now it's actually much better. The city of Atlanta has tried to increase their alcohol licensing fees up to the maximum $5,000 per license. So that would mean that someone who would serve wine, beer, and alcohol would have to pay $15,000 for their license each year. That's a hefty price to pay.
Well, now they offer what they call a discounted combination license, $5,000 for all three. It would have jumped to $15,000.
That's been tabled, so apparently it's not going to be up for discussion anymore. And don't have to worry about it. Hopefully, but
that's what they said for now. There's been rumors back and forth that could raise its head again next year, but at least for now, is not going to happen.
Yeah, so just stay vigilant about that because that's a big, hefty fee for folks, especially brew pubs. Now, another brewery getting its license finally in Sandy Springs, Pontoon Brewing. Sean O'Keefe, one of the brewers, one of the owners there, shot on Facebook that they're starting to brew in Sandy Springs, and you know what? Again, it's another one of those places that's filling in the gap, filling in the locations of breweries and brew pubs across the state.
Yeah. Good to have them.
Good to have them, too. So, all right, well, you know what? We've got Stone Brewing news, actually. In the 2 years since Stone Brewing founder Greg Koch stepped down as CEO, there's been a number of key executives that have departed, and now Pat Tiernan, which is their chief operating officer, he left as well, resigned. Kind of up in the air of what actually happened. No calls have been really returned. Brewbound has tried to get some information on that, but they haven't done it. But it's the fourth executive to exit the organization since last June when Mitch Steele actually exited to start New Realm Brewing, which is opening up soon here in the Atlanta metro area. So, it's tough times for a lot of these mid-major breweries because they're fighting the craft beer and the local scene. But apparently that they've grown sales by over 22% since October 8th. So good for them, but still kind of a sign of the times where these bigger breweries are trying to feel the pinch, so to speak.
Hyper-local, like we said. We need to take a quick break here, but we will be right back with Eric, Michael, and Phillip from Modern Hops.
Hey, this is Nick Knock, head brewer, Sweetwater Brewing Company. Welcome to the Beer Guys.
The Beer Guys are back right after this.
Have you ever thought about owning your own brewery, but don't know what it takes to get one built? We're CRL Contracting, and we build breweries. We are the most experienced contractors in the state of Georgia when it comes to building new breweries and tap rooms, or expanding current breweries. If you've been to Orpheus, Second Self, or Scofflaw, then you know what kind of work we can do. Just give us a call at 678-546-3382 or visit crlcontracting.com for more information. CRL Contracting. We build breweries. crlcontracting.com.
Follow the Beer Guys on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Strange things are afoot at the Circle K.
Now, back to the Beer Guys radio show.
BeerGuysRadio.com is our website. Coming up in a little bit, we'll have a closer look at a local beer, and our Field Hoperative Brian Hewitt will have a Cigar in 60. But right now, we are live in our studios at AM 920 The Answer in Atlanta. We are talking to Phillip Barnes, Eric Levin, and Michael Lowenberg. They are the crew from Modern Hops, which is an independent distributor of craft beer here in Georgia. Gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us on the show. Appreciate it.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you.
Guys, so we're going to start out with what is an easy question when we think about a complex topic. Exactly what is the role of a distributor in the three-tier system?
So I think at the simplest level, a distributor purchases beer from a brewery at wholesale and then sells it to retailers, both off-premise and on-premise, so either draft or package. And delivers the beer as well. So responsible for transportation of the beer from the brewery, as well as delivering to the retailer.
So basically, for lack of a better term, middleman, so to speak.
That's correct.
Yeah. So now it seems that, for the longest time, especially here in Georgia, a lot of folks have kind of pitted distributors against brewers, and there's been some sort of kind of war, quote unquote. Is that really the case? I mean, it almost seems like it's a symbiotic relationship between the two.
It really is, and that was part of the reason we wanted to start Modern Hops, was to really change that perspective. The bad guy distributor and the good guy brewer, we really want to blur those lines, and we want to do everything on the brewer's terms. And that's kind of what we founded the company on was, we want to be an extension of that brewery. And so when we're out in the field and we're talking to retailers, we are talking about the beer as the brewers would talk about it. We're hand selling everything. We are keeping everything as fresh as can be, as cold as can be. We don't want to store beer. We don't want beer to get out of date. We want to really take care of the consumer. And so trying to really make sure that beer is delivered as fresh as can be is really what Modern Hops was founded on. And so I think that'll help blur some of the lines between the bad distributor outlook that people have looked at, and hopefully we can sort of correct that and make it right in the industry.
Some of the negativity, I guess, in the way people perceive the relationship really has to do with legality of things. Some of it is kind of forced through the legal system, correct?
It is, and that's also, I'll let Phillip hit on this for a little bit, but we don't do any long-term agreements. We don't, look at the franchise laws. We don't try and lock anybody up. We actually have outs in our contracts that a brewer can cancel tomorrow if they want to. So some of the previous, I think, relationships were distributors trying to collect brands and, really lock up those distribution rights, which handcuffed some of the breweries. And we're totally against that. So we want breweries to have the freedom of choice to do whatever they want. If we're not doing a good job, then by all means, we should end the relationship.
And one of the reasons that you mentioned, no long-term contract or commitment, that there's an out in your contract. Under the three-tier system, under the laws right now, if you sign with the distributor can choose to let you go or sell your contract. But a brewer cannot choose to leave without a distributor's permission, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. We drafted our contract with Taylor Harper. We sat down. I sat down with Taylor before we ever had a contract and said we want to do this. We want to do a contract that has outs in it. That's a short-term contract that gives these breweries a chance to not have to deal with going through the process of an 8 to 10 month cycle with the Georgia with the Department of Revenue trying to get out of a contract, which was a death sentence before SB 85. For these, because the distributor would just stop distributing their beer. So we have provisions in our contract that says if we don't perform or they don't perform, we're done, and we release the brands, and that's for. And there's a letter that goes to the state automatically that says this brand is released. We're done. It proves everything that they need to prove with the state to release that brand, and they can go do whatever they want to go do at that point in time.
Yeah, and of course, Taylor Harper is the craft beer lawyer. We had him on a couple of weeks ago here on the Beer Guys radio show. But, it really makes sense. If you've got a contract, you have mutual outs, works like this in the radio department as well. You've got a 30-day out. If it's not working, then you can just go. The way it's been, unfortunately, it almost is a lot of these distributors almost have them under their thumb because you could stop, but you're going to stop distribution, you're going to stop selling your product for several months. And if you've got such a small overhead or such a small margin, that's going to put you out of business.
And there are brewers that have felt underserved by their distributors. There's some here that have spoken. A lot of times they don't want to say anything publicly because that could make a situation even worse.
Yeah.
There are brewers that have felt underserved by their distributor, and it can extremely damage a business. Now, not to throw distribution as a whole totally under the bus. For the right distributor and the right brewer, it can be a very symbiotic relationship.
Sure.
Because a lot of breweries do not want to own a fleet of trucks and all of this. They don't want to drive their beer all over the place. Yeah. So when you get a good relationship, when you find a distributor that works with you as a partner, it definitely does benefit the brewery. And that's what a lot of brewers have said is they're like, look, we don't necessarily want them to totally go away. We just want to equalize the relationship here. And that's something that outside of the law that you guys are trying to do, correct, is really equalizing where it is a symbiotic, balanced partnership.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's 100% what we want to do. I mean, we started Modern Hops with Cherry Street with Nick Tanner. Nick was very instrumental in helping us get off the ground, helping kind of shape, what our principles should be and what our focus should be. And, we want to act like we're employees of the brewery. Mm-hmm. We're a separate tier, but at the same time, we want to know everything about those brands. We want to take care of the product as an employee of the brewery would take care of it. So we really want to keep those tier lines a little bit blurred so that, we have that mutual relationship to where, we're in this together. And I think that's how we feel with our breweries, and our breweries have that we work with today have echoed that as well.
Yeah, we're talking to the crew from Modern Hops, which is an independent distributor of craft beer here in Georgia on the Beer Guys radio show. Got a couple minutes left, and just a little bit about your all's background. You didn't have any distribution experience before you started this company, right?
None. Zero. Yeah, we're beer lovers. Yeah, Michael did, and he's been a valuable member of the team. A little shout out to one of our co-founders, Barrett Horde, who's not with us tonight. He's down in Florida. But we're big craft beer traders, big into the Georgia beer scene, and really wanted to do our part to make the Atlanta and Georgia beer scene as great as it could be. And we thought by creating this company, we could help bring in some great beer, some unique beer from out of state, and also take some of the breweries in Metro Atlanta and get their beer out there. Mm-hmm. You take Cherry Street, for example. We now have them in close to 100 accounts outside of Atlanta. Which is something they didn't have before we started distributing them in May. And so we want to do our part to really, improve the Georgia beer scene.
Speaking of the breweries you represent, I know that, as you mentioned, you started with Cherry Street. What are the other Georgia breweries that you're working with right now?
So we have Dry County out of Kennesaw, and also Piedmont from Macon, which hopefully we will be bringing a lot of their kegs up to Atlanta here shortly.
Also, and you just recently brought in an Alabama brewery, Blue Pants, correct?
That's it. Yeah.
Now, when I talked to you once before about some of the beers and that you wanted to bring in, you're not just looking to bring just anybody in. This is a selective process, correct?
Very, very selective. We're wanting to really bring in some elite brands, and we have some that are in the pipeline that we've been building relationships over time that we think will make an impact in the Georgia beer scene. We don't want to have just another brand on the shelf. We really want something that is unique, like D9, for example. We thought they were doing some really, really unique beer, winning gold medals at GABF for a lot of their sours, and, great group of guys. And so that was the ideal partner for us, and we want to look at some others that are in similar situations.
Awesome. Eric, got to take a quick break right now. We're talking to the guys from Modern Hops. We'll be back shortly to talk more with them. Plus, we'll have Cigar and 60, and we'll also talk a little bit more about Jekyll Brewing. Beer Guys Radio, beerguysradio.com. We'll be back right after this.
Hey, this is Taylor Lamb with the Coney Brewing Company, and you're listening to Beer Guys Radio.
It's Aaron and Tim, the Beer Guys. If you're like us, no lunch or dinner is complete without a pint or two of craft beer.
Which is why Truck and Tap in downtown Woodstock and Alpharetta are always on our list. Tim, why do they call it Truck and Tap?
Well, the tap part is easy, Aaron. See, they've got 18 of them.
As for the truck part, well, that's when it gets interesting. Truck and Tap features your favorite Atlanta area food trucks daily, so that way you're getting a different menu every day.
Truck and Tap in downtown Woodstock, Alpharetta, and coming soon to Duluth in 2018. Truckandtap.com. Let them know that the Beer Guys sent you.
Follow the Beer Guys on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
He hates these cans! Stay away from the cans!
Now, back to the Beer Guys Radio Show.
And back with us on the Beer Guys Radio Show, Field Hoperative Brian Hewitt is here. Time for a Cigar and 60. What's going on, Brian?
All right. Well, I've got an interesting one here. So you all know how recreating the beers of years gone by is kind of a big deal in the craft beer movement. You got Dogfish Head. They're making an entire business out of ancient ales like Saw Tea and Theobroma. Closer to home, we've had Monday night. They made Nihao Barley, which was based off a 5,000-year-old recipe from China. And even Max Lager's, not quite as old, did Hellenbach, which was a recreation of the very first craft beer in Georgia. So in much the same way, the cigar industry also looks to the past for inspiration like that. And it usually means reviving a discontinued cigar brand just with a new blend, adapted to the modern palate, or sometimes trying to mimic an old blend. But the Partagas Ramon, which is the cigar I'm talking about today, it goes in a completely different direction. So what they've done there is they've used a proprietary process to regenerate a special variety of old world Dominican tobacco. I believe it's like 40 some odd years old, like old seeds, regenerate it to create a specific cigar, this one cigar. So the end result of that, with this interesting, your grandfather's tobacco for your grandfather's cigar blend, it's an enjoyable citrusy, floral, like candy and pepper type of smoke. It's really pleasurable. I think that the flavor from the cigar has more to do with the high priming Cameroon tobacco leaf on it, which is really enjoyable, than the vintage Dominican tobacco. But that really makes for an interesting story when you're talking about the cigar with people, and that's part of the experience.
Sure.
Talking about the cigar, the story behind the cigar, and the flavor of it. If I was going to pair this cigar, this really interesting vintage cigar, I would go with something that's kind of a little bit more of a modern touch, something like a lighter sour, something perhaps like Creature Comforts Athena, or maybe like a Three Taverns and Septus. I also think that the cigar would pair very well with any of our local IPAs, actually.
I was going to say, with the flavor notes you were saying there, it sounded like that would complement an IPA pretty well.
Oh, absolutely. It's there's not a lot of cigars out there, I think, work well with an IPA. I think this one really would.
Excellent. And
awesome.
What was that cigar again?
It's the Partagas Ramon y Ramon.
Brian Hewitt, our Field Hoperative, and also with StogieReview.com, correct?
Yes, StogieReview.com.
Cool. Well, thanks, Brian, and we look forward to more Cigars and 60 coming soon.
We are talking to Modern Hops today.
Yeah.
We are talking to them about distribution, 3-tier system, all the fun stuff that everybody loves. And we have Phillip, Eric, and Michael in here with us. We're drinking beers, we're drinking mead, we're drinking blueberry cider. So all kinds of good stuff going on.
It's an amazing melange. I like these guys because we had them on a few months ago when D9 came to one of our shows. They brought in a huge cooler of beer, and they brought 2 coolers of beer this time.
That's apparently how one of them is still the huge cooler.
I want to roll with these guys more often, man.
Yes.
This is pretty sweet.
Next time it'll be 3.
Awesome. Yeah. So listen. We touched a little bit about SB 85 and the new Georgia laws that have kind of come around to help brewers out a little bit. How do you think this is going to change the game in Georgia and help you guys really help the industry grow?
Hopefully it'll give breweries more resources, more money to be able to do more things. And hopefully, it'll trickle down for distributors as well as the consumer, and everybody will win. That's the idea.
Yeah, I really think that SB 85 allows us to go out and create a buzz for these breweries to bring people into the breweries. Mm-hmm. And I've sat and talked with a bunch of people, and I said, that are starting up new breweries, and I said, the whole deal is bringing people into your brewery, and we want to be those people out there bringing people into your brewery and creating that buzz for you. So you can the most money you're going to generate is when people come into your brewery, and now you can sell beer out there, and now you can do that. So we want to be able to be out there and create that buzz for people.
Yeah. I mean, ideally, the plan is you do that. People go in the brewery, they like their beer, and this is something that was, that we talked about before SB 85 passed because of the opposition saying, we don't want to hurt distribution. We don't want to hurt distribution by allowing these direct sales. The thing is they have a distribution partner. They're a small brewery. You distribute some of their beer. You champion their brand for people to come in. Their beer gets popular. They grow. You need to distribute more beer. You get bigger accounts.
That's right.
Yeah. And you take the case of Dry County, for example. Tim, of course, you live up in that area where they are in Kennesaw. I live in Lawrenceville. We don't get Dry County all that much, and folks don't know about them. But you put Three Amigos on tap at Lincoln Phil or at or Local Republic, you're able to kind of grow that brand, and all of a sudden, hey, this is a great brewery, and you'll look for them more. So it kind of expands the footprint of a brewery when you're able to do that.
That's right, and we're taking beer down to Macon and Savannah and St. Simon's, and so these are places where there's not a lot of breweries, so there's not a lot of places for these people to go and have great beer, and so by us bringing Cherry Street and Dry County down there, hopefully we're doing a service that is bringing better beer to people.
There was just a discussion online earlier this week. Someone said, "Hey, I'm going to Northeast Florida, kind of the southeast corner of Georgia there. Where do I go? Where do I get craft beer?" And there's like, man, that's good luck. There's not a lot there. There's not a lot there. So, and one thing, guys, that's what we talked about when I first saw you up at Cherry Street and drank some of the beers you guys were sharing there. And that is that, like you just mentioned, you want to take it to those nooks and crannies. Like we say about the breweries kind of filling in the gaps on the map. That's your goal as well, correct?
That is. Yeah, totally. We want to improve the beer scene wherever we go, and we think South Georgia, there's a huge opportunity. Savannah really is a drinking city, especially for draft, and so for us to be able to bring some great beer like Cherry Street, Dry County, D9 down there, we're excited to do it.
Now, we talk a lot, guys, about the challenges that brewers face in the system. What are the challenges for a distributor?
There are a lot of challenges. I think part of it is rotation nation is what a lot of people are looking at now is what's new. With so many brands out there, there's a little bit of SKU fatigue for some of the retailers, and so sometimes they don't want the same thing that they had last week. So, for us, we want to get permanent tap handles, of course. We want to have certain brands on tap as much as possible. But at the same time, when breweries are coming out with new products and new brands, we want to make sure that we're out there representing those to the best of our ability.
Now, just to define your fancy industry term there, SKU fatigue, that's retailers are seeing too many brands coming in.
Too many brands, not enough shelf space, not enough cooler space. You got to pay attention to dates. There are always beers going out of date, especially IPAs and pale ales and hop forward beers. But that's something we want to change and make sure that we're on top of all of that.
Yeah, and it's always a hard thing. I mean, you nowadays especially, you go into a big place that's got a lot of craft beer, and Tim and I kind of know what we're talking about. I kind of know what I want. It takes me a good 20 minutes sometime to go through the list to kind of see exactly what you guys have, and then I have to go a couple of times like, oh, I missed it, So and it's me who kind of knows something about beer. I'm thinking about my dad or something who maybe is a casual fan. It could be really daunting.
It can.
Yeah,
especially if you're not from the area. I travel a lot, and I traveled a lot in previous jobs, and I would go into package stores and you see 20, 30 breweries you're not familiar with.
Yeah, I wound up whenever I traveled, I'd go into a package store and just ask the guy, I'm like, give me 6 breweries that I should be drinking. And then he picks it out for me. I'm like, because I don't know, It's crazy.
And you kind of struggle there where the very best and the very, very worst are the ones that get, the most mentioned. People are going to tell you, definitely drink this one, definitely drink this one. Stay away from this,
right?
But the thing is especially when you get a lot of brands, there can be some really, really nice beers that maybe don't get quite as much hype, as those top 5, so to speak.
Absolutely.
Coming up next, we'll have a giveaway to give away. We'll spend a few good minutes talking about Jekyll Brewing's new release and more stuff with Modern Hops. You're listening to the Beer Guys Radio Show. Make sure to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook for the latest in Georgia and Alabama beer. We'll be right back.
Hi, this is Bob Sandage, owner of the Wrecking Bar Brew Pub. You're listening to the Beer Guys Radio Show.
The Beer Guys are back right after this.
We are Reformation Brewery, celebrating the reformer in you. Locally crafted within the renowned Etowah watershed of Woodstock, Georgia, Reformation creates yeast-forward brews full of aroma and flavor crafted to last. Come see us in beautiful Woodstock, Georgia for a tour and tasting of unique brews that you can't find anywhere else. Reformation Brewery. Set beer free. ReformationBrewery.com.
Follow the Beer Guys on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Oh, God, here we go again. Dork alert.
Now, back to the Beer Guys Radio Show.
And welcome back to the Beer Guys Radio Show, beerguysradio.com. Follow us along for all kinds of great info. Now, earlier this week, we talked to Jekyll Brewing, co-owner and brewmaster Josh Rachel updates us on what's up with their Alpharetta Brewery.
The big craze right now is giving those real, fluffy, pillowy, hazy beers. So, it's been a stride for us to be able to kind of work down that road and kind of start creating that and to be able to supply the market demand out there for that. And that's what's hot right now. And it's really unique because it's not, hey, let's just go make a hazy beer. It's a huge learning thing that I think we've kind of found out and along the way on how to create that. And, it's not, hey, let's leave more yeast and hops in there just to make it funky, cloudy. It's doing all those other things you want to do and creating that. And so, since the tap room's been able to supply, all those specialty one-offs, small batches in September 1 law change, which has been great. Now we can come up here, we're able to really hyper-focus in on those really big, 5+ pounds per barrel hop, bills for IPAs or whatever you want to call it, and be able to test the market that way. And so it's been cool being able to see the variations that we have been putting together along the way, and then finally coming up with something like this that you can actually send to the market and also provide it in the tap room, but put it out there as a limited deal. Hey, drink it fresh. Everybody knows it's always about being fresh, and so it's unique. I mean, it fits the bill for what everybody's wanting right now.
Now you've got the brand new tap room. You've got a lot more taps to use from. Seems like you're going kind of IPA crazy with those a little bit, aren't you?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like for the last 10 years or 5 years, it's always been IPA, right? But it's not stopping, and they're only, evolving into different categories within the IPA category.
Yeah.
And it goes back to the whole learning thing. It's a never-ending process that you can keep refining and changing. Looking at those hops and using different hops, like in this one we're using Azaka, Apollo, and Vic Secret. And typically something I've never used before, but you're getting those cool characteristics that pineapple, orange, and citrus, tangerine in there, which is really nice.
Kind of gives you a little bit more of a room to play with, and you've got your one barrel system in the back that you can do some experimenting on too.
And we're just keeping it full, man. We actually have enough beers. We got 26 taps, and we got more beers than we have taps. So that's a cool thing that we're able to keep up with that right now. But we're stroking 6 days a week just keeping it.
Working hard, right? You got to work hard. Exactly. Right. Southern Juicy Juice is going to be limited to distribution. It's going to hit shelves next week or so, or something.
Definitely next week. You should be able to pick this up at select package stores. I mean, like I said, it's very limited. Hopefully everybody gets it that wants it. But if you can't, we'll have some here too. So it's a different play to the market with a 16-ounce 4-pack, Georgia. I mean, you don't really typically see that. So it's a new thing for everybody to kind of see. I mean, this is not a cheap beer. This beer was designed to be made in the tap room so I can make those awesome, crazy beers. But I'm able to afford it because I'm selling it in the tap room. But we're trying to now say, hey, market, here, come to us, let's bring this to you.
Well, it's interesting. I just came back from the Northeast, and all of the IPAs are in those 16-ounce tall boys.
Right.
You're only just starting to slowly see them working in down here, too.
For sure.
Yeah.
It's we were running the 32-ounce crowler for a while back in the old Law's ways. And we've switched out, and now we're doing 16s in-house, no longer 32s.
Yeah.
It's just a better beer. I mean, either you can drink this by yourself, we can all drink a 16-ounce pour, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Or it's still big enough where you can get 2 8ers out of it, and it's great.
And share it,
You can share it. So I really I'm digging the 16s.
Very cool. What's coming up next for you guys?
There's always something coming up. Again, I'm still continuing down this path. Right now, I'm really hyper-focused on this style of IPA, and I know that I'm not at the top here, but I want to keep striving to keep adding all these different attributes to this beer to make it even crazier.
Josh, man, you're the man. Thank you so much.
I appreciate it, brother.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, that was our interview with Josh Rachel from Jekyll Brewing. And, we're going to go ahead and back here with the crew from Modern Hops. We can't even get them to shut up for a little while.
They
no,
can't.
It's all good. It's all good.
Well, there's been a whole lot of alcohol flowing around here today.
I mean, we're talking during the break. It's like they've got 2 coolers full of awesome beer. They're welcome anytime.
Yeah. So, you know what? I want to talk about a beer. We've talked about it with our Facebook followers before we get into the rest of this. Or not a beer, excuse me. Michael brought in Ectoplasm from Far From the Tree, Michael, correct? And this is a kiwi jalapeno cider.
With green peppers.
And it's just fluorescent green.
It really is.
Show the people what the color is.
We did. We
I'm
showed
pretty sure they
earlier.
saw it. Yeah.
This is just the weirdest thing ever, but I don't hate it, Michael.
I think that's kind of the general consensus for everyone.
It's a neon green. You get a ton of jalapeno in the aroma, which actually can hit you pretty hard. But then there's a sweet fruitiness and some green pepper and spice.
I was impressed how the combination of flavors can come through. And
it's weird, man.
The jalapeno gives you the spice, but it doesn't overpower it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But the heat sticks with you. It's still with me after about 5
minutes. It's like a shot
there.
of something a little harder.
All right, man.
On the way down.
Well, thanks for bringing the madness today, man. The craziness.
So let's go ahead and talk a little bit more about what you guys have coming up in the future. I hear rumors of an IPA fest.
Oh, yeah. The best.
And listen, just when I heard about that, the heavens just parted, the sunshine came down. It was just, so tell us what you can about that.
We love our IPAs for sure, and we wanted to bring in the best IPAs in the country into Atlanta and really have a beer festival focused on fresh IPAs that have never been in Georgia before. And so we have contacted quite a bit of breweries. We have probably about 15 out-of-state commits, have a few in-state commits. I'll go ahead and reel off a couple of the names of the people that will be attending. But we're looking at next March to have this festival. You're looking at Heist, Equilibrium, Triple Crossing, Magnify, Kane, LIC Beer Project, Old Notion, Dancing Gnome, Sand City, Weldworks.
That list is phenomenal. I mean, really,
there's a lot more that are interested.
So a few months out, you're saying like around springtime next year? Is that what you're
looking at? March 24th, probably.
Yep. Okay.
Next year, so.
Yeah.
Get your calendars ready because IPA Fest is coming.
Very limited tickets. Very, very, very limited.
Did I hear where it's being held yet? Did you mention that, or is that secret information?
That is the double secret information. Yeah, that will be announced shortly. But we were also looking, at some limited distribution for some of these guys. So, sprinkle some kegs around the city for those that can't attend the festival. Hopefully, we can get them into retailers across.
It sounds very Shelton-y.
Which some of them already have definitely agreed to limited.
So can I say that it's a cool venue and people are going to be pretty excited? Can I go that far with it?
Yes. Of course.
Absolutely.
All right.
Between now and the IPA Festival in March, what do you guys got going on?
We're talking to a lot of different breweries, some eateries, some cideries. I think we will have a couple new brands to launch here in the next few months. Besides that, we just launched Blue Pants around the metro Atlanta area. We are heavily focused on both Cherry Street, D9, and Dry County, and getting their brands out to outside of metro Atlanta and continuing, our relationships with the retailers that we have.
Excellent. Well, cool. Phillip Barnes, Eric Levin, and Michael Lowenberg from Modern Hops. Thank you guys so much for joining us on the Beer Guys radio show today. Really appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. Cheers.
Guys, if people want to keep up with all that's happening there, what's the best way to do that with Modern Hops?
Instagram and Facebook. We try to be as active as possible. We like to promote our breweries and retail partners as much as possible as well. So any type of events that are being hosted, we'll usually post them on Instagram.
All right, well, let's check out a giveaway. We've got a giveaway to give away, Tim.
We do. We do this every week.
Absolutely.
Aaron, and we need to do it again this week.
Yes, as Tim shuffles around his paperwork to figure
my notes.
out.
I've got it right here. I found it. So Our winner this week of the Beer Guys Radio Swag Pack, which has awesome swag from very cool breweries.
Yes, it does.
And other places, and very cool distributors like Modern Hops, who brought us hats and all that stuff today, is Neil Parzik.
Awesome.
So, Neil, thank you so much for subscribing to This Week in Georgia Beer. And drop us an email to beerguys@beerguysradio.com, and we will get you your swag pack sent. And, Aaron, if folks want to join in the fun and be entered to win, how would they do that?
It's super easy. Just visit beerguysradio.com, sign up for This Week in Georgia Beer, and Tim get you all the happenings weekly with all the new happenings in Georgia Beer, and you'll also be entered to win our weekly swag pack. So, again, beerguysradio.com, and we'll be good to go. Coming up next week, we're going to talk cider. Treehorn is going to be in the house with us next week. In the meantime, check us out at beerguysradio.com and on the socials. And don't forget to drink local. We'll talk to you next time. Cheers.
Thanks for listening to the Beer Guys Radio Show. We're on demand via iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, or wherever you get your podcasts. Always online at beerguysradio.com. Aaron and Tim are back next week with more about the amazing world of craft beer. Cheers.
If you're into craft beer, you need to check out Drink This Beer. It's a podcast from The Beer Guys. That's us, where we talk to brewers from all over the country and all over the world. This week, we're talking to Microphone Brewing out of Chicago.
It's been a journey. I've learned a lot. I've some ups. I've had some really low downs. But once we finally trusted ourselves, my wife was behind me. We knew we were doing the right thing. It was fun. It's been a wild journey. I can tell you that much. I mean, we've only had the new space open for a little over 7 months. And there are days it feels like 7 days. There are days it feels like 7 years. But it's fun to do what we love to do every day and share what we do with consumers. And, we've got some guys who just set up and started brewing here too, and giving them the experience now to get their brand off the ground and get going. And it's all good stuff.
That's Drink This Beer. It's a podcast from us, The Beer Guys. Check it out, download and subscribe on Stitcher, iTunes, or wherever you get your podcasts.